Welcome back. Time for the front pages of the papers. Don't forget, you can start calling now. You find the number right there on the screen. And you can be part of the conversation, especially if you want to talk about anything that we've had a conversation on right from the start of the show. 3 hours counting down to the end. We do have Ikechukwu Amaechi joining us this morning to join the front page analysis. Thank you so much for being here. And I hope we talked about eggs today. I don't know when last you bought a crate of egg. And how was it? Was it very affordable, you know?
Yeah. Well, I don't go to the market, unfortunately, so it is my wife that will answer that.
Oh, okay.
You just take part in the eating of the things that come from the market.
We hear that one egg costs 300 naira now. I cannot confirm, but that's the report that we hear. I only know that noodles,
between 250 and
the smallest pack of noodles costs 400 naira. So, meaning that your minimum wage can buy you, like with eggs, 233
But Mr. President said the economy has turned the corner.
Average breakfast for a family of, let's say, 4 won't cost you anything less than perhaps 5 to 10,000. Is that bad? So when people are lamenting that things are hard, that things are difficult, they are not. They're not crying wolf. It's just true that many people, their take-home package cannot take them home, realistically.
When your take-home cannot take you home, then where does it take you to? Well, we don't know. Anyway, you can call in and let's start the conversation. We're going to go straight to,
I think we should start with the Tribune.
Yes,
that's where we here.
Go ahead.
On the Tribune. Federal Executive Council taking a cue from Donald Trump, okays Nigeria's first economic policy to prioritize local industry. Bans unjustified imports. I wonder the things they classify as unjustified imports. Executive order coming to back up this initiative. Donald Trump has influenced them. They say, look, Nigeria first. And they might say, you know, solar panels. There's an industry in Nigeria that can produce solar panels, even though you can't meet up with the demand. So ban this. And if you're going to import more revenue, you know, customs.
What about cars? Are they going to ban cars too?
Yes, there's Innocent. Why can't you use Innocent and not? Even though they don't produce enough to take care of the market. But we are very happy to celebrate. You know, we've turned JAM everything, WAEC to revenue generating institutions. We'll celebrate, JAM made X billion amount of money. But look at the numbers that came out.
That came out failing.
Yes, a huge percentage failed. So these days, I'm even afraid of buying JAM forms for people because at the end of the day, are you going to pass?
Jam them.
It's not to write it. You pass it, or do we drop the standards? Is 200 too high a number? But let's start with that first before we touch on other stories. So, Mr. Amaechi, they say we should look inwards, and that the only way to, you know, get out of this conundrum is to, you know, patronize Nigerian products, buy Naira, buy Nigerian to grow the Naira. We've heard buzzwords like that. Is the presidency putting the cart before the horse?
At least my own outfit from head to toe is purely Nigeria.
Wow. Are you sure?
Yes.
The fabric itself?
Yes, the fabric.
Well, what about the hair?
Made in Nigeria, sold by a Nigerian brand.
Okay.
Well, on the first value, this renewed hope, Nigeria first policy, we can say it is a good one. Because, you know, we have all said that the only way Nigeria can get out of this economic mess we are in today is we transit from consumption to production. Nigeria must become a producing nation if we are going to make any headway economically. So whether it is an idea borrowed from the Trump playbook of America first, now it is Nigeria first. It's a good idea, but that's on paper. Implementation, where do we start from? Look, it must not be selective, and it must not again be targeted against the economically marginalized Nigerians, as we are wont to do in this country. The president is importing beef as part of his motorcade. Perhaps another policy borrowed from the U.S. now president. We saw a minister the other day who went to a function
in a Rolls Royce.
In a Rolls Royce. Do you know how many billions of dollars we spend every 4 years importing all the state-of-the-art jeeps from Japan for the lawmakers, for ministers, everybody, even local government chairmen, even councillors. Everybody is now entitled to ride Prado jeeps, ride all the costless cars. And you know the number of jobs we create for the Japanese in their economy by the mere fact that we continue importing these things. Now, do you know of any American leader who rides any car not produced in America? Even India.
Even Malaysia, they use Proton, Perdana, the Prime
They
Minister.
use cars produced locally. Now we have car manufacturers like Innocent and all that. Could you imagine what will happen if part of this Nigeria First policy is that when the president is signing the executive order, if it is prepared by the Attorney General and Minister of Justice tomorrow, part of the proclamation will be no more importation of cars for government officials. Innocent. These are the specifications we want, and you must produce to such specifications.
What if they are
Leading by example.
Yes, but they might argue that that's what they're trying to do in the solar industry, for example, to ensure that they boost local manufacturing. Is that not a first step in the right direction?
If that is what they are doing in the solar, this is fine and good. All I'm saying is that there must be production, and that you don't cherry pick. You don't have a president who all he wears from head to toe, shoes, everything, are imported things. The food he eats, the toothpick you have in Asorok are all imported, and you are there pontificating about Nigeria first. That is a good idea. We must go back to production. That's the only way we can climb out of this economic morass. But that it must be all-encompassing. It shouldn't be one thing. People are importing Rolls Royce, and how do you now expect the innocence of this world to grow their businesses?
Do we have the enabling environment to encourage production? You look at Nigerian Manufacturers Association, they're always complaining every day. You can't industrialize off the back of generators. You can't have a massive production base if you don't have the basics like electricity. So some feel, you know, provide this. They feel the government policy is putting the cart before the horse. Provide the enabling environment, then you can start all
part
this.
Part of that
import
policy,
substitution. Yes,
exactly. Part of that policy should also be government taking deliberate effort to provide the enabling environment, like you said. I think it was about 2 weeks here or so that we were discussing a story in the Punch that the power situation in the country has created an economy, a generator economy that runs into 1-point-something trillion, because people are looking for alternative sources of power. They are buying generators, they are going into solar and all that. If you also don't solve the problem of insecurity, you can't get investors. You can't get people to come and invest in your economy to start producing, to start manufacturing. So it's a whole value chain of things to do. You don't just wake up in the morning and say, Nigeria first, and everybody must use first goods made in Nigeria. The truth of the matter is that there must be an enabling environment to start producing those goods in the first place. So I agree with you. I agree with you that we have to look at the whole thing holistically. What are those factors that are inhibiting production in the country? And you take them on, and then all I'm saying is that that policy must be all-encompassing. It must not be that the luxury goods enjoyed by the elites are excluded. It is only those ones that are going to be enjoyed by the poor people that they will not say it must be this. Let it be this. It might not be easy initially, but that is how every other country that has developed, whether it is China, whether it is India, whether it is this thing, countries can't develop unless they develop the culture of production. You can't develop by consuming, spending money you don't have in importation, waves of importation, even things you have the capacity to produce locally.
All right, let's take a look at another newspaper very quickly, even though we've looked at the Tribune. All right, let's stick with the Tribune. 2027, Atiku still weighing options, may not quit PDP. Plans last-minute rescue efforts to save party. That's what the source says. Wike Fubara field, tax reform bills, constitution review, insecurity top agenda as NAS reconvenes. Let's start off with Atiku, not quitting, looking forward to 2027.
Can the PDP still be saved?
Well, the PDP crisis, if you ask me, is tricky, and part of what is causing the crisis in the PDP is Atiku and his ambition. If Atiku is still insisting on running for the presidency in 2027, and his body language suggests that crisis in PDP, and of course don't forget that the crisis started again in 2023 when Atiku hijacked, contrary to the unwritten law, that the presidency should alternate between the North and the South, in which case Muhammad Buhari had served 8 years in Northern from Katsina State, and therefore that PDP should have zoned its presidency to the South. It was when Atiku refused and took the ticket that Wike and co started with the problem. And I tell people that the greatest value that Wike brings to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's governance table is that he is positioned there to hold down the PDP. That's the assignment.
And that's what it is.
That's the assignment Wike is doing, and he will continue to do that as long as Atiku is insisting that he's going to run for the presidency. So I don't see how he can pull PDP back from the brink without reconsidering his ambition. If at the end of the day he's able to say, okay, why don't we support, if the idea is to upstage President Bola Tinubu in 2027, Atiku's candidacy will only unite Southerners. Even those that don't like Tinubu will say, instead of going back to the North, let it remain with the devil that we know in the South. So, does he want a PDP that is rebuilt, that is renewed. The ball is in his court, and the decision he takes going forward concerning the 2027 elections will go a long way in determining how far the PDP can go in extricating itself out of this morass.
All right. I mean, one can't really tell what the next steps will be for the PDP, what their chances are, and if, like you said, an Atiku candidacy is not a good look for the People's Democratic Party. But I want us to go to the New Telegraph. On the front page of the New Telegraph, there's a big story there. Senate moves to reconcile stakeholders in Rivers crisis as National Assembly urges Supreme Court to dismiss PDP's suit and seeks 1 billion naira damages. Now, I bring in this story because just yesterday when we talked about the women, the Rivers women who staged a walkout from the empowerment program organized or hosted by the First Lady and represented by the wife of the sole administrator, they walked out because they said they did not recognize the sole administrator's wife and who is she, why she, in what capacity is she addressing the Rivers women. Whilst addressing that and apologizing to the First Lady, former Governor Nyesom Wike said a number of things, basically inferring that they say they want peace, yet this is what they are doing. They are basically inferring that FUBARA is behind the walkout. So, do you see the reconciliation of these stakeholders ever happening in Rivers State? Because,
or are the efforts even genuine?
Yes.
What will the nature of this reconciliation be? What does reconciliation in the Rivers case amount to? That is what bothers me. Reconciliation in Rivers, does it mean a FUBARA being just there in name as governor without exercising real powers of the governor, which is what Nyesom Wike wants. Nyesom Wike wants the structure. Nyesom Wike wants to be in Abuja and calling the shots in Rivers State. Nyesom Wike wants a situation where FUBARA prepares the budget and takes it to Abuja for Nyesom Wike to approve.
Okay.
And then, so what does this reconciliation mean? Is it to tell Wike, look, you are you have had your time for 8 years as governor of Rivers State,
yeah.
And you are now the minister of the Federal Capital Territory. Allow the man who has been elected to do his work. If that is what reconciliation means, now fine and good, but will Wike agree to such a reconciliation?
Well, that's
because at the end of the day, we are going to create peace of the graveyard. Okay, reconcile. On what basis are you going to reconcile? What are going to be the terms? Don't forget that the president had initially called the two of them together. They signed agreements which
they reneged.
FUBARA went back to Rivers and withdrew the cases, which was part of the withdrew the cases in court. Wike went behind, and the cases that were instituted by his minions in the State House of Assembly, none of them
withdrew them. Sorry, let's take this call.
Was withdrawn.
Let's take this call. Michael calling from Delta State. Good morning, Michael. Hello, Michael.
Hello, good morning, Michael.
All right.
Okay.
And, you know, we must be careful of legitimatizing this Godfather syndrome, where people are beginning to carve out empires now for themselves.
And the governors are almost helpless.
Governors are almost helpless. That President Bola Tinubu has been able to do it successfully in Lagos since 1999 does not mean that any other person that can do that.
It's dysfunctional.
It's a very dysfunctional way of running a so-called democracy.
All right, let's quickly take the call. We've been able to reconnect with Michael. Good morning, Michael. Thanks for calling from Delta. Please go ahead with your comment. Hello, Michael. Are you with us? All but it seems that we're having a challenge.
Okay. There's another story, I believe, here that says it's about the UTME, concerns over UTME, and I think it's very important we highlight this educational story. Concerns, I think, is on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
It's still on the New Telegraph as well,
Yes,
mass failure.
Mass failure. I mean, according to JAM, over 1.5 million candidates scored less than 200 in 2025 UTME. The breakdown offers a full picture. According to JAM, candidates who sat for the UTME examination, 1.5 million of them scored less than 200. However, it's announced that 4,556 candidates scored above. I mean, the big story here is 500,000 in 2 million, in almost 2 million. I didn't get up to 200 cut-off mark. Where lies the problem? Is it social media? Is it the candidates? Is it the teachers? Is it because, I mean, we need to have a post-mortem. This is a serious crisis that is happening. What exactly is the issue here?
It's troubling, but of course it's a basket of problems that we have in the education sector. I don't want to believe that Nigerian students are no longer intelligent. No. I don't also want to believe.
Are they distracted? We hear things like education is a scam.
It is not a question of distraction. Like I said, it's a portfolio of problems that we have in the education sector. And isolating it, saying it is because the students are no longer reading, because the students are distracted, the social media did not come today. So the students were distracted last year as much as we are distracted this year, but we had a better result last year. We can't also, look.
All right. Sorry to call in. I think we have Jerry from Delta. Jerry.
I believe that Jerry has moved. I think we've disconnected from Jerry.
Okay.
Or we've lost that call.
JAM has, for some years now, reverted to this CBT, computer-based test, in conducting their exams. But we have to also ask ourselves, how many of these students, it is a different thing 2 weeks or so to the distance, you conduct mock exams where you now subject these students to what it is like to use computer. But have you gone to the secondary schools in the villages? There are some secondary schools where the students have not even seen a computer before, not to talk of touching one.
Let me not even shock you. Why can NECO are now suggesting that they should embrace CBT by 2026?
Yes, yes. Whereas there are some schools that have not seen computer before, students have not seen computer before. That is a problem. You must digitalize secondary schools so that these kids will be conversant with computer before you subject them to exams.
With that same model.
The other thing I also learned is that these exams for JAM this year, that it was set outside the syllabus that the students
did not prepare for.
Wow. I had somebody saying yesterday that the daughter said that she went through JAM past question papers in the last 5 years as part of preparation for this exam. Said no question that came out of that basis. So what syllabus did JAM use? Were the students prepared alongside the syllabus and the exams that were set for them? Because I don't want to believe 75% is rather mass and failure.
So what happens to the 1.5 million people that want to get admission into Nigerian universities and didn't meet up with the 200 score? Would they go and study Yoruba, or I don't know? What's their fate?
Yeah, it is not a question of going to study Yoruba. We should not lower the standard. But the question you just asked, this cannot be a fault of the students. We must locate where the fault is. Is it in terms of the teaching?
Maybe the syllabus, like you...
Is it in terms of the instructional materials, the syllabus, or even JAMB itself? Because you can't... I think somehow also, now JAMB is beginning to prioritize how much money they remit to federal government coffers over and above the interests of Nigerian students that have been subjected to all this manner of things. I don't want to believe, despite all that I said about distractions, about social media, I don't want to believe that the problem lies exclusively that Nigerian students are no longer reading. These children are still intelligent. It is something that should engender a very big discussion as per what is going on in our education system, and to what extent has the government itself. I think this should provide an opportunity for a wider discussion. What has the APC government in the last 10 years done to deepen our education, to make our education more robust than they make it? If this is anything to go by, if this result is anything to go by, then somebody can safely say that education is in decline under a government that says it is revamping education. So how are you revamping education when 75% of your people are failing in exams? So something drastic must be done. We must come, look, this should warrant the declaration of a state of emergency
On education.
on education, so that people can now go back, the think tanks will come and sit down and look at, are we getting it right when it comes to education in this country? It should call for very, very sober reflection, and action must be taken, not to blame. This should not be a blame game, but something went fundamentally wrong in a situation where 75% of the students did not make up to 200. What is the problem? If we identify what the problem is, then that will be the beginning of our attempt to climb out of this ditch.
You can imagine. Well, let's take our very last part in the paper. Let's go to the Punch. There's one story there. It says revenue collection inefficiencies cost power firms 965 billion naira. I'm sure you're aware that there's a new tariff coming. I don't know what your take is. Major petrol diesel price cuts expected over crude slump.
Major, I hope it's not 20 naira major.
It's major.
I want it to be slashed by at least 300 naira.
Okay.
I like how you are dreaming.
I like that.
My car, I drive a V8 engine. It's a fuel guzzler, so you can understand my passion.
Okay, so let's take that revenue collection inefficiencies cost power firms 965 billion naira, and then the new tariff that's coming. What's your take on that?
If you meter power consumers, I don't see how inefficiency will come in. Because is it not what you pay for that you consume? And that is, look, it is when you go into estimated billing. In any case, it is government parastatals. Even Asorok was owing PACN. So they should solve their problems themselves. Whether they want to increase the tariff or not, they should also, a country that is looking at production cannot continue making energy unaffordable to manufacturers. It is antithetical to the fact that you are claiming that you want to produce, and the major factor that continues to push up the cost of production, which is energy, you are still increasing the tariff by the day. At the end of the day, let them continue. They may find out that they have continued to raise this to the extent that no Nigerian, right now, every Nigerian that can afford it has gone solar. They have taken themselves off national grid. So time will come when PSN will produce this power and they will consume it.
I mean, our guest was telling us that some manufacturers, even that they have independent power sources, they're not, they're off grid, because it's almost like extortion.
Yes.
Nigerians have paid up to, I mean, I can't pay anymore for power.
I can't.
My entire existence is not to pay for power. We have other needs.
There is nobody, particularly if you're unlucky to be in the so-called band A, that you have enough money. Look, if Asorok is complaining, if Deputy Governor of Lagos State is complaining, if a minister, I met a former minister I visited in Abuja last month, is complaining, then what about the ordinary man on the street? How is it that people are being given, people pay as much as 500,000, 400,000 every month on electricity bill? No, it doesn't make sense. Let them continue increasing the tariff. It will get to a stage where Nigerians will start living in darkness, or people will go off.
I mean, you might just end up like the borehole system, because no one is expecting pipe-borne water in Nigeria today. We used to have pipe-borne water. People have made their alternative plans. It might just be maybe Mr. Adelabu's house will be the only one connected to the national grid.
In the last 2 years, no value has been added to the power thing. All that we hear is tariff.
More money.
More money, more money. If you pay more, you will get investors. Where are those investors that were promised when this new tariff was increased from 66 naira to 200 naira?
They are coming.
So, where are they?
They didn't come.
They are on their way.
Yesterday,
let's be patient.
What of the Siemens deal? What has happened to the Siemens deal?
The Siemens deal that was signed by President Buhari and then was re-signed again by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
You know, people take us for granted. We were here when the Mele Kyari and his people told us,
all the
factories are working.
Port Harcourt refinery has come back on stream. Warri refinery, Kaduna refinery. Today, what do we have?
In the words of the great Fino, he said, Ogemegi Vumnaya, that is going to do you like a dream.
Today, what we have?
He's not producing petrol, the refinery is producing petroleum jelly.
Look, this country, they are taking everybody for granted.
They are taking the mic.
And unless and until Nigerians, in unison, rise up and say, enough is enough, nothing will change.
All right. But for us here, we have to exit the studio so we can change things around for another show to come up. But thank you so much for joining us.